Welcome to Market Like It's Hot. In this episode, we're going to be chatting about Skype, and can we call it, Izzy, a downfall or just fading away?
Dead.
Okay, a death.
It died.
We're going to be talking about the death of Skype, and with me today is Izzy Dudosky. Izzy, who are you?
I'm Izzy Dudosky. Yeah, I do everything SEO and technical for Rebel Marketing.
Yeah, and I guess we should mention that we are coming through from Rebel Marketing. We are based in Columbus, Ohio, and we focus on businesses that we help with marketing for businesses that have some kind of growth goal or strategy, and we help implement that and accelerate it. All right, so Izzy, let's dive in. Can you, for anyone who is either too young or has been living under a rock, what is Skype?
Skype was like one of the first like video chat options. It was either that or FaceTime, and I remember when both those came out, and a lot of people used it. And then COVID happened, and then we got probably like 10 more choices. But yeah, it was. At the time, I'm not even sure when they first started, but Microsoft bought them around 2011. And then that's when some stuff started going south, and then new features weren't updated and some issues started to happen. And that's why they're out of business now. So,
yeah. But at a certain point, they did dominate the market. I mean, even I used it years and years ago when I was first starting the business and needed to communicate with people across the nation and had no idea how to do that. I started to use Skype. I don't even know if I still have a Skype account. So it came along with FaceTime. We had Skype, and then it was purchased in 2011. You put in here for $8.5 billion. That is quite a hefty, that could pay for a few student loans. Where do you think it really went wrong? You kind of touched upon that.
Well, again, just like if we're talking about COVID happening and some different things, I mean, Skype had already kind of been out of the loop by that point. But even for like Microsoft acquiring them, Microsoft made Microsoft Teams. So then it's like, why'd you even buy them in the first place? But nothing was getting updated on Skype, and there was no features, and it was still just literally what it was when it came out, and no real great upgrades came out with it that like allowed people to keep using the platform instead of making those switches. So one, I think I totally forgot about Skype when Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Chat came out and different things like that. It's where people started to like gravitate towards, because they actually had easy sharing options. People were able to join pretty easily without, typing in these like long usernames or long codes to be able to join. And also just from like a business sense, I feel like Zoom kind of business really took over in that portion, because they were always promoting it to be like a secure destination to have these types of meetings. But that's where I saw the major problems. And then with Microsoft buying them, then you needed a Microsoft account, and then you couldn't get back into your old Skype account that you made without having a Microsoft account. And I think that's where that issue really started to come in. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then really, you mentioned here in notes, like the positioning, right? So Microsoft purchased them, but then they also had their teams available. And it's just like, where did they land between that and Zoom and all of the like Google Meet? Just not consistent branding and no real marketing.
Yeah. And also just like, which one would Microsoft rather promote? Microsoft Teams, which has their name in it, or Skype? And I'm assuming they chose to just put all their focus into Teams instead of upgrading the different issues that were within Skype already. So,
yeah. And so what are some of the lessons? What are some of those things that we can learn as marketers from the mistakes that Skype made or that Microsoft made with Skype. Let's talk about like the branding and the positioning.
So the issue with Skype is, again, we probably haven't heard about it in forever until we found out it was already going out of business. But why didn't they hit that pandemic boom where everybody was using these types of features? I have no clue, because I feel like I didn't even hear about them during that time. And that would have been the perfect time to be promoting your company, because you're offering something that everybody needed at that point. But we heard absolutely nothing from Skype. So then new people who were never even in this like field were the ones who grew the most, or were like designing a few years prior, where, you know, we were on like video calls almost every day. So they took the jump instead, and then they were able to surpass Skype so much where it's like, did you even try? Did you even try during this whole entire thing? So it was just bad branding all around. They should have, I think, gone for like, we were the first ones you trusted type avenue to like build that, like, oh yeah, Skype, like we did use that. And then, you know, actually upgrade the features along with that to promise that to these people. But I just didn't see anything.
Yeah, I'd also add that they didn't do much even before the pandemic. And I think that is an issue with some of the businesses where they're kind of just floating and they think that they don't need to do as much marketing, and then something big happens like a pandemic and they don't have enough of a following or brand recognition to do a big push. Like Zoom already had some kind of recognition and they were just able to dive all in onto what they already had strategically planned out.
Yeah. And then also it's like, I think the way that we all think of Skype is, again, like that first platform we used for video calling. But then I remember it also like cutting out all the time. Oh, what'd you say? I can't hear you. And it's like, you have that customer like recognition, but you also have that customer experience that's still sitting there from when we used it, I don't know, 20 years ago. So it's like, you have to start making those changes so people aren't going to just associate you with the clunky video call thing that we all tried to use at one point. And we could probably never hear each other and different things like that. And especially during COVID, that would have been the perfect time, or even before, to solve all these issues, because people wanted to use Skype when we didn't have a pandemic happening and we're all sitting in our houses. So I don't know what took them so long, or didn't let them adapt. So
yeah, I wonder if it had something to do with just being comfortable. And again, going back to, you don't know what kind of pandemic or what could happen. So the businesses now need to stay nimble, I would say. But if they didn't fix customer experience before the pandemic hit, as soon as the pandemic hit, then you're trying to figure out which platform is best for you. You're just going to have a bad taste in your mouth about Skype, and you're probably going to try one of the millions of other ones that are out there, Zoom seeming to be the one that took over, at least from recognition.
Yeah.
So
you have to adapt. You have to adapt.
Yeah. You have to adapt. You have to also look forward, or try to figure out strategies of what ifs, right? Yeah. What if we all have to like go remote? Are we, did Skype have the capacity to take on all of these additional users, right? Or companies that were looking for some kind of platform?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I said, and they didn't. So
yeah, they did not. So how does failing to adapt, I mean, we kind of touched on this, in the market how can it kill even the biggest brands? Are there other examples of brands that might be sort of teetering on that edge, or that they should probably really look at what Skype did and avoid that?
I'm trying to think of a brand that has died in a similar way. I mean, if you think of like,
because they died, they went away.
I was gonna say like Radio Shack.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Radio
didn't
Shack.
adjust to anything happening.
I mean, I think as micro businesses and small businesses, we need to look at these big brands because Radio Shack could still be considered, for some of our audience, they're still really large, right?
Yeah.
And so when you get into the micro business or small businesses, it's nobody will realize that you went away because you were so small, but we can still take learnings from this. Just being able to pivot, being able to adapt, listening to the users and what they're saying, reviews, um, how they're ranking you, and then being able to innovate quickly.
Or like another example, like Blockbuster or GameStop.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
Netflix used to send videos, and with Blockbuster, you would go pick up videos. And then if I found out my competitor was coming out with a streaming thing, I would probably also try to jump to do the same thing, or something at least similar, where it's making it easy for the customer. But they did not do that, and now they're all out of business. But like everybody remembers going to Blockbuster, and that again was like the first experience within that whole world. And then like look how much has changed now. And then they got, they didn't adapt to the changes. So
well, that also brings a bigger question for small businesses so let's say you do want to be the Netflix was the one that started with, hey, we're going to mail you these DVDs, and then now we're going to start streaming. So do you want to be the follower, or do you want to allot or budget in some time and effort, money into being the first, being innovative, being able to test out different services, or what's that saying where if Ford would have given people what they wanted, they would have gotten faster horses instead of cars? I totally butchered that, but basically,
it makes sense.
Yes. I mean, I'm a big advocate for like testing things, especially as a small business. I know sometimes budgets are strapped, or you might have to spend more time on it, but being able to just test new features or test new recipes if you're a restaurant owner, I don't know, just continue to innovate and test things out so that you're not left behind.
Yeah. And I don't know, like Blockbuster could have been the first to do that, or they could have done something completely different. But like as a kid, I knew we weren't going to be watching DVDs the entire time, because I mean, like, what was before that? VHSs, and then DVDs, and then Blu-rays came out. It's like there's always going to be something new. So I think they should have, especially within that industry, known something was probably going to alter that entire industry. So like they could have been testing different things, or since Netflix was the first, like they could have been one of the top competitors for Netflix if they really did that. So
yeah. So could Skype have been saved?
Within the past 5 years, probably not. But if they could have been, if they had made some changes within. And then also, I don't think getting acquired by Microsoft was the best idea in hindsight. So it made it a little bit harder. And then again, people were using it for businesses, schools, different things like that. Probably should have added some more security features to, promise people that that stuff won't, be released. But I don't think so. No, with their decisions, I don't think they could have been saved. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely not 5 years ago. I think that if they would have looked to the future a little bit, maybe about a year before the pandemic, or at least looked at their marketing, looked at people reviewing their brand, maybe they would have been able to be ready for the onslaught of what was the, I don't know, fatigue of being on Zoom calls, right? Being on video calls, and they might have been able to pivot a little bit into that market, or perhaps niched into, for example, WhatsApp, they have a video feature now, right? It's just like FaceTime. They might have been able to figure out a gap in the market where they might not have been for meetings, but they could have been for something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what for a small business who is realizing or fearing this or feeling like, hey, it's starting to feel a little iffy. There might be some more competitors. There might be other people selling the same widget or a similar solution. What would it look like to have a strong brand revival strategy?
Well, one, recognize that there's a problem. Would probably be the first. And then two, take an innovative approach so it's slightly different than your competitors. Look at other industries and how they've adjusted in similar situations and like what did they do. And the reason I say that is like if it's an issue within your industry, like where you feel like you're going to like not be able to keep up. It's happened in so many other industries where it's like you need to take those lessons from other industries or like take the way that they handled certain things and then kind of rework it for your own, because if you just follow what everybody else is doing in your industry, you're probably just going to be left behind in certain scenarios. But that's what I would say. I don't know. Do you think the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, we are in a marketing, right? We're marketing, so things like AI for us. Um, the nice thing or bad thing about us is a lot of the stuff is SaaS or software, and looking at ChatGPT and all the other AI providers, and seeing which one can help us best provide services to our clients. But then looking at gaps of what are all of the marketing agencies doing wrong? Like, what is the biggest complaint about working with a marketing agency, and how can we avoid that? Because we don't want to be, just because everybody else in your niche or in your market or in your industry is doing it that way, and doesn't mean that you could have to continue to do it that way either. You can be the best by just filling that one gap, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
What was that?
I think my phone went off and I forgot to turn off my ringer.
Whatever your cooking is done, and I want some.
It's my
I'm
phone.
hoping for a pie.
Yeah, I wish. There we go. Then that won't happen.
Yeah, the first thing I thought was like, what are you baking? Lasagna, pie.
I can't
What would be
bake.
good right
Everything
now?
catches on fire. I can cook. I can't bake.
I can supervise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say strong brand revival strategy. What if you're not even sure? Like, do you need a strategy? Is your brand even going downhill? Like, what is one of the first things that people should do?
Are you talking about for Skype or small businesses?
Small businesses. Skype's gone, so we can say goodbye to them.
Yeah. But I'm saying if they did come back, they could hint on that nostalgia and probably kill. That's for Skype, but for small businesses, I think it depends on if it fits and if it makes sense. You don't want to do a whole rebrand if it's not aligning with what the values are still of the company. Really only do it if it makes sense, or like you've actually thought about it and thought it through. And yeah, that's probably the best advice I could give. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, without getting into industry specifics, I would say go and listen to your audience, to your clients, to people who did not become clients or people who didn't buy from you. Survey focus groups. If you run an organization, see what people are saying about you, both members and non-members. Just take a look at the landscape and see where you stand. What are the complaints? What are the things that you're doing really well? And do all of those align with your mission? And then you can say, okay, it looks like our brand is pretty strong. but it also identifies gaps such as, let's say it is a membership, perhaps you need to do more in person, or if it is a membership and people have given feedback that they can't make it to all of the morning events, perhaps they become digital or virtual events. It, it could be B2B, it could be e-commerce businesses seeing maybe it's something that's wrong with shipping. People love your product, but it gets there very late. So you can, by just listening, you can really learn a lot about where your brand, your business stands, what people think about it, where those gaps are. And then you can celebrate the things that you're doing really well.
Yeah. And I know of a brand who did something and listened to their customers recently. Red Bull, once again, Red Bull.
We'll just need to, every single clip where you mention Red Bull, we're going to have to tag them in it.
Yeah, I'm their biggest fan. But there's been like some kind of like health wave, I feel like, in the past like 5 months where everybody's just like counting their calories and everything. And it's kind of weird. And it's especially like within my age group. And everybody's like aspartame's like from the devil now, and it's going to give you cancer. I don't know if you've heard this.
Yeah, I heard about it. Don't have the energy to care much anymore.
Yeah, see, the beauty of this though is I'm allergic to aspartame, so it's awesome. But how are you going to make a diet drink now without aspartame? So they sweetened it with monk fruit. And let me just say, I have not been able to find my Red Bull Zero in some stores because they're selling out of it, because nobody wants to drink the sugar-free version anymore with the aspartame. They want the one that's like naturally sweetened. And it's great for me because I can't drink it, but it's also a great move for them because I think instead of like the zero drinks and the diet drinks that have it in it, they would probably pick that instead. So
I mean, at this point, guys, we've got like plastic inside of us. The world's on fire. I don't know. We might get hit by an asteroid, or a meteor, whichever one is the correct way to say it. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
there's probably cancer in the air, and I'm breathing it in right now. I'm not living my life in too much fear anymore. You know what I'm saying? I just know it's going to happen at some point.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, looking at that market and listening to, and it's interesting too, because I know older folks who do drink Red Bull, but they also were able to identify a market where within a younger group and what they wanted, because maybe the older folks are like, meh, I don't care.
Yeah.
But you don't want to age with your audience. I think a lot of the companies have that issue where they sell a product and they continue to just age with their audience. And guess what? People die.
Yeah.
You want to keep getting new people onto whatever product you're selling. So I think that's a pretty good job of Red Bull, listening and providing a solution. And also, I have not heard that we are supposed to boycott Red Bull. So good job, Red Bull.
Yeah, don't boycott Red Bull. They didn't do anything. I don't think. If they do something, then I'll be very disappointed in them, but don't. Their new spring flavor, not that great though. So that's all.
What is the new spring flavor?
Grapefruit and blossom.
Huh. But you don't like grapefruit anyway, right? So
I know, but it doesn't taste like grapefruit. And that's where I'm getting confused. And what does blossom taste like? Like, it doesn't taste like flowers. So I'm running into a problem here because I was like, I'll probably hate this, but like this one was just like, meh.
I like how you still tried it though, even though it had the name grapefruit in there.
Well, I had to like, give it a chance, but it really does not taste like grapefruit. I don't know what it tastes like.
I don't know. That name just sounds like happiness. And right now it's gloomy, so I'm not sure I would be.
Yeah.
All right. So listening to your audience, making sure to watch out for what the heck is happening around you. And I think Skype, man, being ready for not necessarily a pandemic. I don't want to be negative Nancy, but just making sure that you're prepared, right? If there is an onslaught of people looking to sign up because now they have to go remote, and then they already have a bad taste in their mouth about the customer experience or calls not dropping, they might not necessarily choose you. So, yeah. Any last words of wisdom, Izzy?
I just want a like gravestone insert in and then Skype on it, just like dropped right here. And then any words of wisdom. Don't be a Skype.
Don't be a Skype. All right. Okay.
Is that good?
That's perfect. Perfect
Okay.
words of wisdom. Don't be a Skype.
Don't be a Skype.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions or you want us to figure out if your brand is turning into a Skype, you can go to our website, myrebelmarketing.com. Izzy will take a look at your brand. I'll take a look at it, and then we will be honest about where you stand against your market and whether you are veering into Skype territory. You can always also connect with us on LinkedIn. And with that, we will catch you in the next episode. All right. Bye-bye.